In this video, I'm going to begin talking about developing character in adolescence. And it's going to take two videos because on one hand, how we work with children as they emerge from being children to being adolescents changes because they are changing and our psychology needs to change on how to work with them. And then secondly, the second video will be on a series of ways to reach out to work with your children on a very practical level, and I'll share a lot of my experience. Okay, so in order to understand this phenomenon of working with your adolescent's character, and that really ranges anywhere from age 11 up to the early 20s, I'm going to use a metaphor, and that metaphor is of driving a car. You or I or the adult in the child's life is in the car. And when they're little, they're sitting in the back seat. And this means we pretty much tell them everything, where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, how long it'll take. And when children are young, they need that. They need the careful hemming in of their life based on our family and our cultural values and the directions we want to set for them. Even though we know as they grow older, life is nuanced and it's not going to be a black and white world that we create for them when they're young. When they hit adolescence, we invite them up to the front seat because we now want to partner with them in the most important endeavor of their life for that period of time. And that's forging a personal identity. And we want to build a relationship, a partnership where we do that together with them to create a reasoning, a way to look at the world through reasoning, through analysis, through critical thinking, where we work together. So there's a lot more listening on our part. There's a lot more attempt to understand, to gain perspective, to show unrelenting support, even sometimes if their directions are not always the greatest. But we create a very loving, supportive partnership where even though we give them opportunity to speak, we still have the steering wheel. And I'll explain how that works, but that's important. That picture is very, very important. Now, I'm going to borrow both from science and from history to give you some context for all this. Because what we're talking about is shaping the way they think about their life and the way they think about framing their personal identity. That's what's going on inside of them, whether they identify it or not. Science and history say this is the period of time that is functioning in that way. Now, the first thing, it's interesting that how they are changing at this period of time. There is a spurt of energy in their neural capacity that kind of supercharges their interest and their capacity for cognitive development and for emotional development. It's powerful. It's like flooding them with energy. And that energy, if not directed, of course, can create all kinds of problems and destructive behavior, which teenagers in America are well known for. But there's a reason. It's because of this spurt of neural capacity, and it's just supercharging them. Now, the point is, if we let it go and let those natural that natural growth in their neural capacities grow unattended, well, then, of course, we can't expect much out of that. But here's the important thing. We can have a big impact through reasoning, through conversation, through understanding, through honoring and respecting them to shape in which directions that energy that is being infused into their neural capacities, their neural potentialities, to head it in a direction that will help them frame the highest and the best sense of personal identity. It's important to know that personal identity is probably the cornerstone of adult mental health because it represents the framing of how we approach our life in good times and in bad times. Now, this idea of forging personal identities is well established in science. As a matter of fact, besides the ages 0 to 3, the adolescent years are the most powerful period of time in which their neural capacities are being shaped and molded. You see, when we're older as adults, our capacities can be nudged We could dedicate ourselves to learning something new, um, embracing new attitudes and new outlooks on life. But in these periods of time, they're being shaped during their adolescence period of time. And so the field of psychology recognizes this period besides the age 0 to 3 as the most powerful for them to forge their personal identity in the capacities that they might develop and in their aptitude to reach out to the world that they live in. It's a cornerstone, as I mentioned before, and it's built on their accomplishments. That's why part of this cognitive development of this time, they have unlimited potential and energy to work and grow and strive. And they also are in just the right time to begin to shape their outlook on how to treat people and how to make an impact on the world that they live in. And this is not just science. This is well held in time and history by psychologists, by philosophers, by religious leaders, that if directed, the adolescent years are powerful. They're times of exploring ideals and great ideas, and to wonder about life and think what I can become, and to think how I might impact my world. So both science and history validate how precious are these years. They shouldn't. And I think sometimes in American culture, we despise these years. We think they're wasted years. These are years of rebellion. Well, yes, rebellion is there. But if we grasp the opportunity, actually, we're laying the groundwork for these young people to take their personal life as far as it can possibly go and to make a meaningful impact on the world that they live in. There's the literature in positive psychology points out a very interesting paradox, showing that individuals who are seeking happiness, pleasure in life, but do so in the pursuits that are over quickly, temporal pursuits and entertainment and enjoyments. And even if they extend over a period of years, if they have not invested themselves in exploring their potentials and exploring how they can grow and impact their world, then the sense of happiness can't nearly compare to what happens in someone who does form their outlook on life according to a general identity that sees life on the highest plane. And much of living on a long-term investment of your time and in your energy has underneath it a sense of who you are and a sense of being driven to fulfill who you are and a sense of your debt to your society and to the people around you. Young people are like this. It's interesting. That same body of literature points out that when young people are engaged in forging a positive personal identity, when they're being helped to reflect on their life, to analyze their life, to consider what's best for how I can develop and what's best for how I can make an impact on my world, these are the people who are able to control the impulses that all teenagers have, but they're better able to regulate them because they're going somewhere. I can't tell you how many times in my professional and private career working with young people, this has been a core element of whether young people are headed toward a productive life or end up struggling their whole life because they haven't wrestled with some of these decisions about who they are, where they want to go, and how they want to impact their world. Now, of course, you have to realize our challenge is the culture that we live in. Quick results, showy accomplishments. That's just the mainstay. That's how most young people look at their lives. Yet all of us know the things that matter are the things we've invested a great deal of time, a great deal of energy. We struggled, we sacrificed, yet the sense of accomplishment when we reach our goals far outweighs what popular culture calls happiness and enjoyment. So all the more, even for their happiness during their teen years, I know they're emotional, I know they have social needs, and we should accommodate those. We should comfort them, we should love them, we should support them, but never let go of this spurt of neural capacity, exploding, full of energy, to take them as far as they can go. This is a time to join clubs and join sports and join music expand the capacity, because that's the period of time when the mind is growing as much as since they were a baby and a toddler. So what are we doing? When you invite them to that front seat, you're engaging in a partnership of conversation, teaching them how to reason. So you can't impose. If you impose like you did when they're sitting in the back seat, they're going to get out of the car. I can guarantee you that. And I'm afraid that's what happens in many, many families in America. You can't let go of what was in the back. Or others, they don't take the time to teach their children how to reason. When you bring them up to that front seat, now you've committed yourself to have these kind of conversations, to explore who they'd like to be. What kind of, and the higher goals you set, the better. The more noble are the goals that you set, the better it is for them. That's in them. That's what they want to be, but they need to hear it. Now, I've worked with middle school students for a long, long time, and I can tell you, I see it over and over and over again. How precious are these years for expanding their cognitive aptitudes to limitless levels, and also to expand their emotional development, to realize to be a reflective, contemplative, thoughtful person who is forging their personal identity to make the most of their life and to make the greatest impact on their world. Okay, so the next one I'll talk about, and quite a number of topics you can bring up, you can look for when you're driving the car while you're having these partnership conversations with your children. Okay, thank you.